WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I have a whammy. This is Signatory Vintage. This is Benriach 2000. This is 20-year-old Benriach. This is a sherry cask finished. Now let's pull out the bottle real quick, and I'm going to pour it in the glass. So take a look at this color. This is amazing, or terribly, terribly wrong. Whatever you want to say to this. All right, so I'm going to pour a tiny little bit and continue reading. Now, what should this bottle cost? It's Benriach. It's 20 years old. It's Signatory Vintage. It's part of the Cask Strength collection. It's in this little decanter type of thing here. It is bottled at, after 20 years, at 59.1%. No way in the world did this go in the barrel at 63.5%. We're not in America. And the interesting thing is it says distilled on the 24th of May 2000, bottled on the 18th of February 2021, so it's almost 21 years old. And then it says the initial maturation was in refill, but more than one. Now this is the single cask edition, all right? So what happened? And then it says here, finished in a fresh sherry butt for 6 months, cask number 3. And we have here the bottle number 88 of 706. So what they did, either it was Signatory Vintage or Benriach, I think it was Signatory Vintage, sorry if I'm wrong, is they had some 20-year-old Benriach laying around in different casks, in different refill sherry butts, and they poured it all into one sherry cask, a fresh sherry butt named number 3. Now, I'm going to be very, very loose with my tongue and say there was maybe so much sherry in that cask that after they poured in all the whiskey, they might have actually had more volume, more liquid in that cask than just the whiskey. Ooh, maybe. More than maybe the 3 or 5 liters that might have been allowed. All right, so I did my math here, or my maths, as they say in Great Britain. And I took out my calculator and I calculated what happens when you take 706 bottles and times it by 239 euros. You get a figure for this one cask. This one cask produced revenue of 175,794 euros. That's more than the house that my mom lives in. All right, 175,794 euros. Now take off half that price for our VAT, 19%. Take off half that price, continuing on together with the excise tax for the whiskey in here. You're basically in Germany paying half the money you need for the whiskey itself and the other half for taxes. I know some countries, Ireland is more 20% for the whiskey and 80% for the taxes. And America, in some states, it feels exactly the same thing as well. But over here in Germany, we're running about 50-50, all right? You still have a cask that produced whiskey without taxes of over 80,000 euros. That is in itself, for me, a little mind-boggling. One cask. And Signatory Vintage has, I think, 10,000 casks. Benriach has more than 10,000 casks, I think, laying around. That's a whole lot of money. Personal opinion. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out 2 of the bottles that I've already done from Benriach, which I just happen to have here. This is a single cask just for Germany. This is a Pedro Jimenez. This is a 2010. And the problem is nowhere on the label of this bottle did they say what type of sherry it is. Is it a Pedro Jimenez? Is it and that's the second bottle that I can pull out. Is it a Oloroso? So I have a 15-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 10-year-old, which is kind of cool, I think, in my personal opinion, here on the table. They're all cask strength. So 59.1, 59.8, and no, this was 59.8, I'm sorry, and this is 61.3. So they're very, very, very close, even though there's 10 years difference between the 2 of them. Good. All right, on the nose, it is a very, very nice nose. I have blackberries. I have dark, rich plums. I have a little bit of lemon. I have a little bit of lemon. I'm sorry, a little bit of leather. I have a little bit of brown sugar. I have a very, 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 very nice, sweet, inviting aroma. This is good. What I don't get is the typical Benriach moment. Sorry. And I don't think I will ever get the typical Benriach from this after it's been basically buried in sherry. The refill butts at the beginning, oh well, I don't know how active they were. And now, though, that fresh, new sherry butt. Over here, the Oloroso. This has a little bit more of a nutty character. This has a sweeter, fruity character. This has the Pedro Jimenez. Now, sometimes some of these people are starting to use a tiny little bit of a trick. And what they're doing is they're mixing their sherries to create something with a deeper, darker color. So they use a majority of Oloroso and they put enough Pedro Jimenez in there to give a deep, dark, rich color. Ta-da! If you have a fresh sherry butt, you can, of course, maybe even scrape out all the char, re-char it, and get a lot more of that flavor in there as well. They might have done that to get a little bit of the color as well. So this is a deep, dark, brown type of moment. So you have a newly charred cask. You have Pedro Jimenez plus enough Oloroso to keep up the moment. And ta-da, you might have your perfect blend. Your perfect color additive is wrong word. Color maker. Yeah. All right. So that's what I think this is. I think this is actually a little bit of a mixture here. Look at that color. That's just not right. This is the 15-year-old Oloroso. And this is, unfortunately, it's not a great Pedro Jimenez. It's very, very weak. This is the 10-year-old Pedro Jimenez. Just amazing, the difference in colors. One last thing I want to mention. You might not see very many of these dark colored whiskeys more on my table. I have told myself and I have vowed myself to stop buying them. I'm a little bit ashamed that I did buy this. I remember it was a Sunday afternoon and I was Tuesday afternoon, I'm sorry. I shared the bottles on the Sunday. It was Tuesday afternoon, I received the newsletter. It's like, oh, click, 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 click. I bought 4 of these single cask Signatory vintage cask strength editions and just bought them. And I was like, okay, good. They're going to, oh, look, Benriach. Yay, people love Benriach. 20 years old, boom. I didn't even look at the color. I just looked at the dates and the price and so on. And I bought them. Luckily, I was able to share this bottle with any real problem because people like to buy older whiskeys with a dark, deep color. And that's a little bit of the shame because I would rather have the 20-year-old whiskey like it was. Why do I need a 6-month finish on top of that to ruin the 20 years of maturation beforehand? And that's what I'm ashamed of, that I bought this bottle and I'm actually supporting the industry that does things like that. So if I ever see another bottle like that, I'm going to actually go, don't click, don't click, don't click. All right, on the palate, 59.1% is actually it gets very, very hot at the end. And now cask should have a additive maturation of subtracting maturation. That's not right. They take some things away and they add some. What does it mean when you add some? Color. The color came from the cask. And if you keep something in the cask for 20 years, the alcohol should get not as peppery, not as gingery, not as spicy, not as hot as it is. And apparently those sherry casks, if it was 2 or 3 that were mixed together to create this, actually there's 498 liters in the 500 liters cask. So they just poured everything in there possible. And it's just too hot. It's not a great feeling at the end. It has a good nose and it has an interesting feeling. So I'm going to give this actually a C for a whiskey. It's not a C plus. If the finish had been a little bit different, it's not an old wood finish. Now, what is really, really interesting is when you dilute it, it doesn't really need diluting. It does a little bit. But the more you dilute it, the more of an old wood moment appears. And so it's actually as if you have this blanket over this whiskey. All right, this sherry blanket, you take it away, and you can see what's down behind it. And it's not really the best of whiskeys. Marketing, fabulous. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. You turn some old, whiskeys, whiskeys into something that was desired with the color, the price, and also the age statements here. I get a tiny little bit of sulfur even here. Wow. Didn't get that in my German video. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Not the best finish. Yeah. A little bit bitter. So this is a solid C whiskey for the taste. Nothing to write home about, unfortunately. But it is a F whiskey for value for money. 239 euros is just no. And yet these bottles are being sold all over Europe, and they're going to be sold, and there are going to be enough people to buy them. And the market is so overheated that people actually do buy them. Both of these were a little bit of a disappointment for me on the nose. The Pedro Jimenez was a little bit weak on the palate. There was a little bit of bitterness towards the end as well. Here we actually have a great nose, but at the end the bitterness is even more. What can I say? I'm not a big fan at the moment of Benriach in the sherry cask. So, personal opinion, what is your favorite cask strength sherry whiskey? And thank you very much for watching. What is your favorite Benriach whiskey at the moment? And we will see each other every day, not almost every day over here on my channel in English. WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American, tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Thank you very much for watching. All the best. See you soon. Bye-bye.